Welcome to Biomutant.
Released May 25th, 2021 for last gen and PC, and September 6th, 2022 for current gen by developer Experiment 101 and publisher THQ Nordic. Biomutant is one of those games I was always watching through the corner of my eye. It looked interesting. I didn't much like the play as a rodent or vermin or whatever your character is a bit too much, but it still looked interesting, but only mildly, especially with the unrealistic hype surrounding it before launch. So many games are hyped by the development team, the publishers, the fans before release and fall flat on their faces. Cyberpunk 2077, Mighty No. 9, No Man's Sky. The list goes on and on. Please, spare me the comeback stories of the two aforementioned. That's not the point. The point is, I never believed the hype, so I wasn't biting my nails waiting for Biomutant's release. I also never played the last gen versions, so this is not going to be that kind of review either. With that spiel out of the way, I can safely say Biomutant was a pretty good experience. It ain't breaking new ground or anything, as it feels very familiar to games like Elix 2, Far Cry, and even Mad Max, but that's fine. I'm not one of those spoiled entitled consumers who require the next groundbreaking thing from every new title announced.
Amazing how much that helps.
So, for those who may not watch any more than this bit of my review, I'll make it clear right now. Biomutant is in fact a highly entertaining, well-made game for most part, and it should be well worth your coin. Thanks to the publisher for the review key, and if you're still watching, here's the actual review.
Out-of-date's forebodings are justified. The jumbo puff needs to be taken care of.
The story of Biomutant at first seemed uninteresting. Perhaps that's because of how I feel about the whole your character's an animal thing. I don't know. It just feels harder to become immersed, invested in a game where I'm not human or so far from being human. And I'm not talking about games like Endling. I'm more talking about playing the role of an animal who's acting like a human.
Sometimes feelings change.
The story did find a way to pick up nicely though. The more I played, the further I got, the more it all came together in a more tolerable way, for lack of better words. It really began to come together in an interesting way. A way which did not make me feel like I was simply playing an ARPG with story thrown in as mere filler. Without putting too much out there and spoiling the entire thing, I'll say this much. Mankind once again went too far. Humans seem to be extinct. The wildlife mutated into, I don't know, humans 2.0? And basically started acting like humans, walking, talking, creating factions and divisions, fighting against each other. You know what? It looks like mankind messed up, and now the animals have taken their place and are making the same mistakes all over again, repeating history. But there's more. Your parents were killed. You grew up fending for yourself with the aid of a few. And now there are these creatures called world eaters, who some believe should be stopped, while others believe they should be allowed to carry out nature's natural course. And then there's the tree of life, which you must make the choice to save or not.
There it is, the tree of life.
You know, when I hear myself tell this story, it doesn't seem that cohesive after all. It sounds quite incoherent actually. Well, that may be for the better. Like I said, I really shouldn't be spoiling it for you anyway. It is all told well in game though, through meetings with various NPCs like the one called Out of Date and interactive flashbacks. The sound is pretty AAA. The voice acting, at least the parts in English, which is the voice of the narrator and these little devil and angel fairy-like creatures which represent your conscience and the lack thereof, are done well.
Wait, no! Bright light blinds! It's dangerous!
I've got all the cold sick burns you need, Dark.
The narrator, which I think is your companion called an automaton, a mechanical grasshopper on your shoulder who also aids you in other ways, like being a flashlight among other things, really talks a lot.
Not much more to say about the board, but Gizmo is holed up in the underyard.
It's actually a love it or hate it kind of thing. I suspect many complain about the narrator's constant chatter from the last gen version of this game, as there is an option to limit its chatter.
Says they're wary of strangers.
Also, the NPCs speak some kind of gibberish. Their language, I suppose, and the narrator translates after they speak. This again may be bothersome to many. I would have much preferred if all spoke English. Instead of putting all this effort into a made-up language, having the dialogue doubled up with translations, just have them all speak the same language. I mean, I guess this may have been the developer's attempt at added story immersion and believability, but I think it was a wasted effort. An effort that could have gone elsewhere. To put it bluntly, there's just way too much talking in this game on its default setting. And this is odd for a game that had quite a bit of repetition in certain areas.
He says you made them weaker. but they won't give up.
You would hear the narrator say the same things every time you conquered an outpost or fort.
He says you made them weaker, but they won't give up.
This is what I mean when I say these efforts could have been redirected.
He wants to know who you think you are.
The score was lovely, the sound effects were all well suited, and the ambient sound certainly helped bring the environments to life. The visuals are beautiful. Like I said in my review of Bright Memory Infinite, these are by no means what I'd call cutting-edge current-gen visuals, but they do the trick nicely. And while I never played this on the Xbox One or PS4, I suspect they were well optimized and enhanced for current-gen. The details in the characters were all well done. The environments look lush and detailed as well. Only issue I encountered worth mentioning was some, I guess this counts as clipping. After beating an enemy, I could walk right through them. There was also the occasional pop-in, but hardly noticeable. The gameplay, so much to say here. On startup, we've got so many options. You can play around with the visuals, not on a PC level, but yeah, you've got options here. You have more than enough audio options as well. You can adjust the controls to your liking, the camera, which by the way, still needs some work, and even button mapping. You've got 4 difficulty options: easy, medium, hard, and extreme. Then the character customization was here in abundance. I'm not the person who spends half hour to an hour customizing my character, but if that's you, then you'll be as smug as a bug in a rug here. Maybe again, it's just me and the whole play as an animal thing. I don't even like watching movies where the main character or characters are animals, so I didn't like any of the breeds I got to choose from. But again, if you're cool with your character being an animal, if you're cool with customized till your heart's content like options, you'll probably find something here that sticks. The breeds you can choose from are Primal, Dumdon, Rex, Kyla, Fip, and Murgle. Just listening to myself say those names made me feel stupid. This game has a thing where the animals apparently renamed everything, like calling a telephone something like a dingbox or some such shit. It's all really silly actually. And listening to myself say some of these, well, it just sounds really juvenile, but I digress.
That's a pling-plong booth from the bygone, back when you needed to cable words via buzzwire.
Each breed has their own strengths and weaknesses. We're talking vitality, strength, intellect, agility, charisma, and luck. And in true RPG style, these can all be leveled up as you see fit. I stuck with the default breed, Primal, and just customized its level as I progressed. You're also able to define your genetic structure, customize your attributes, your resilience, your fur, your main color, your detail color. You can also pick your class from Deadeye, Commando, Psy-Freak, Saboteur, or Sentinel. And again, in true RPG fashion, each has their strengths and weaknesses, which can be upgraded as you go along.
Grace under pressure.
I mentioned the whole conscience thing earlier. With the devil and angel on your shoulders, you're basically assessed as you proceed. Much like in Elix 2 and other RPGs of this kind, depending on your choices, as if you have not already noticed, this is one heavily choice-driven game. So depending on the choices you make, like to help others with side quests, completing said side quests, allowing defeated enemies to join you or not, these choices determine your life path.
Light instantly vanishes dark.
Will you go to the light or dark side kind of affair? Biomutant starts out with a pretty intuitive, easy to follow along tutorial. As with most games today, it's a learn on the job, whistle while you work kind of tutorial, and it gives you a lay of the land pretty well with this hands-on approach. Combat here is exploding with style. It feels good for most part, with a couple exceptions. One, like I said, the camera needs so much help here. Yes, sometimes it gets pretty bothersome, especially when in the heat of battle. That's the first thing that bogs down the combat. Then, 2, do not mistake this for a Mad Max Arkham-styled game. I did it first, but the combat, although well done, is not nearly as refined. As with pretty much every RPG, the more you fight, the more points you get to level up. There are several kinds of points you can obtain. Use these wisely to level up your character according to your preferred playstyle. You can increase your stats and attributes, unlock special abilities, master your Kung Fu, or as they call it here, Wung Fu. Damn, these facepalm moments are beginning to give me a headache. Yeah, but anyway, your Wung Fu is of course your fighting skills. You can upgrade your close combat abilities, ranged combat, basic melee, basic ranged attacks, maneuvers, and unlock and level up your super Wung Fu as well. There are also perks you can unlock as you progress, general perks and class perks.
Your Muma says she's never seen an apparatus as green as this little thing. It's wonderful.
I mentioned your companion, which I really am not 100% certain is the narrator, but pretty certain based on logical deduction.
The Toxanol Corporation used to run chugger-chuggers out of here.
You can level that up a bit as well. We have some puzzles. My kind of puzzles. Do you remember hacking in the first Bioshock? Well, these are even easier. So, they can barely be classified as puzzles, but I can appreciate this. Seldom do I wish to be burdened with complex puzzle solving. Perhaps that's my age showing, but I detest being stuck in game trying to figure out some obscure, bizarre, unrealistic puzzle. So this elementary school styled puzzle system is just what I needed. Solving these will unlock a variety of things: lore, doors, items, and such.
Everything's clocking together.
We've got a decent-sized map to traverse, so of course much-needed fast travel is an option. Much like Far Cry, Elix 2, and other games like those, you unlock fast travel points. Only difference here is, you do it like a savage. Like the wild beast you are, you piss on the posts to unlock them. Real classy.
Let's see.
You can also mount other mutated animals in the world as another form of faster than foot and paws travel. Again, much like Elix 2, I'd say Elix in general, but I never played part 1. But much like that, you're required to join a tribe. I mean, in Elix 2 it was optional, but bear with me. You join a tribe, which will make the others your rivals.
Get out full of us.
You then work towards dominance. The game calls it unity, but whatever. That's probably what Columbus called slavery. Anyway, you control opposing outposts, overtake forts to quell all opposition. I mentioned this earlier. After you take over a fort, you are then given the choice to banish the leader or have him join you.
Thinks it's a good gesture to offer support to others when you can see that they need it.
There's also a crafting system. Again, nothing original here, but done well enough to get an easy pass. From scraps you pick up along the way, you're able to craft more useful stuff. You can craft healing items, weapons, and even modifications. Crafting here is called, here we go again, upcycling.
He can work wonders with almost anything and asks if you know how to upcycle.
Well, that one wasn't so bad, really.
He's looking forward to seeing what you'll make next.
You will also need to build up your resistance, not only against enemy weapons and attack types, but specific zones. Heat, cold, radiation, and biohazard are the 4 types of elements you'll need to build up protection from.
Bionucleus 4J. Toxanol should never have built these to start with.
Here's a thing to note. If you're new to RPGs, if let's say Biomutant is your first foray into the world of deep or semi-deep RPGs, then all this presented here in Biomutant may seem quite overwhelming, maybe even a turn-off. But I think all RPG fans will appreciate this game's high level of customization and attention paid to character detail.
Then you've got a good excuse.
Also, the detail paid to a heavily choice-driven experience. Like taking out an outpost or fort, you don't always have to fight. Depending on your stats, you may simply reason with the leader and he hands it over after some negotiating.
He's realized a peaceful end to this would be best. He'll entrust the fort to you.
You're sometimes given the option to approach the actual outpost or fort differently, with specific tasks and tactics, which do not require running in guns blazing.
There go the moths toward the outpost. They're good and mad. The outpost belongs to your tribe now.
I did notice that not only did you get the same screen after beating an outpost and fort though, but the places look the same or at least really familiar. Some variety would have been appreciated here. After beating a fort, you may get a special tribal weapon to add to your arsenal as well.
It's the NETRA claw chain.
And still on the choice system, after beating a certain amount of forts, you are given the choice to choose between continuing to fight for the remaining or accept their surrender. I suspect the incentive to continue fighting would be the special items I mentioned you get after beating a fort, but again, the choices are appreciated. Biomutant has a lot to it. There's quite a bit more I could touch on, as with any true RPG, but I don't want to get carried away. I'm not trying to create an hour-long review video. I mean, what's the point? I live in the Instagram and TikTok generation where attention spans don't go past 60 seconds. Props to all who watched this far. Let me exercise some restraint and wrap this up here. Biomutant is a great game. I'm not saying it deserves Game of the Year, as it seems based on how entitled and spoiled gamers have become today, if it ain't the next GTA or Last of Us, it ain't shit. Not me. A game does not have to be Red Dead Redemption 2 good to be considered great. Not by my standards. Biomutant is highly entertaining and will give you your money's worth. I heard some negatives about the last gen version, but I never played it like I said, so I can't touch on that. But grab it for current gen if it seems like it would be a good fit for you, and have a great time with it, flaws and all.
It evokes a tingling sensation.
Thank you for watching. If you like my content, feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Let's say I found a way in this day and age of glass house-like sensibilities to offend thee with my words. Then hey, fuck it. Feel free to dislike and whatever the hell it is YouTube allows you to do with videos which causes your butts to ache. Either way, I won't hold it against you. Our game is never over.
Amazing how much that helps.